I had considered doing the preview before doing the review. I just didn't have the time because Edmonton-Calgary turned into kind of an epic game that even though the decision of who was going to win the game was decided, what was going to happen, it just turned crazy. The Battle of Alberta, if you didn't see it tonight, was the most insane game I've seen in a long time. And the first time I've seen referees say, all right, we're just get out of here. We're going to figure this out in a very, very long time. So we're going to start off with the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this was a pretty good test for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It really was, and it usually is. The Ottawa Senators play Toronto very tough. First period, the Sens tested Hutchinson around 3.5 minutes in. Hutchinson was dialed in. So the continual improvement of Hutchinson is still in progress. The shots were 5-1 Senators 7 minutes in. Or 5 minutes in. So they were playing very well. There's a late power play for the Sens as well. But in between, the Leafs managed to get some shots. And when they did, Craig Anderson stood tall. Anderson had a very good game. So if you weren't expecting a goaltending battle in this one, you can be forgiven. But what we got was a goalie battle in the matchup between Craig Anderson and Michael Hutchinson. Who knew? Second period, Borowiecki would open the scoring from DeMello and Batherson at 6:08. That is the 7th goal of the season for Borowiecki. He already had a career high with 6. He's going to keep going, and he's showing, you know what? He's a pretty good defenseman all around. Not just the tough physical side, but he can put some points on the board and put some goals in the net as well. The Leafs then get a power play. During said power play, Spezza scores from Sandin and Hyman at 10:41. So this is the first time he's played against Ottawa as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Spezza makes it work with a power play goal. And it's a 1-1. The Leafs get a power play in the last minute of the period. They don't score before the end of the second. And early in the third, they don't score as it carried over into that period either. The Senators got some good chances. Got a really good chance at around 4 minutes in. Tavares just missed the net wide at around the halfway mark. And then he gets another fantastic chance with 4.5 minutes left approximately. And he hits the post. So the Leafs pushed the play quite a bit. Craig Anderson stood tall. So we go to overtime, tied at 1. There's a power play for the Senators. During said power play, Shabbat gets the best chance, which hits the post. And then the Leafs get a power play, and they decided to go for it. They put 4 forwards out on the power play. Not messing around, no need for a defenseman. 4 forwards, and here we go. And Marner makes no mistake in front of the net. You might expect him to pass. You'd be wrong. He gets his first career overtime goal. Nylander with the assist at 3 minutes and 54 seconds. So right around when I thought, this is probably going to go to a shootout, it doesn't. The Toronto Maple Leafs survived the big test, which is Ottawa, and they win it in overtime 2-1. Your 3 stars are Marner, Anderson, and Hutchinson. So very good night for the goaltenders, and Marner gets the first star with the game winner. Can't argue with any of that. Anderson, 34 saves on 36 shots. Hutchinson, 24 saves on 25 shots. The shots favored Toronto in the first 10-6. Ottawa in the second 11-9. 15-6 Toronto in the third. In the overtime, both teams got 2 shots. Final shots 36-25 in favor of the Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs go 2 for 3 on the power play, so they don't score 5-on-5. Ottawa plays very well defensively in that situation. And Ottawa's power play went 0 for 3 because it sucks. That's the reality of it. And again, I don't think Ottawa would argue with me that it doesn't suck. Because it has for a while. Next up, the Rangers and Detroit in what may have been the slowest game of the night scoring-wise. A lot of shots. So if you expected a goaltending duel between the Rangers and Detroit tonight, you were correct. As we get into kind of some dead puck era scores on this part of the board, and that didn't continue throughout the whole night, but this is some dead puck era level scoring. The scoreless start, there's a scrum at around 11 minutes, and of course Brendan Lemieux's in it because who else would be in that for the Rangers? And then Zibanejad would score on the power play from Kreider and Strome at 12 minutes and 13 seconds. So it's 1-0. Second period, the Rangers got a power play. There was a late power play for the Wings. But in the midst of all of this in the second period, Chris Kreider takes some friendly fire. So he's going down. Zibanejad's going over top. Zibanejad accidentally, of course, knees him in the side of the helmet. And it looked ugly. And Kreider left during that second period. And in the third, they announced that he won't be back. because of this Zibanejad collision. I think he's got a concussion. Now, where this becomes major news for the Rangers is, of course, he is considered to be the most coveted forward among potential rentals at the trade deadline. He is now on the shelf. You can still trade him, but his value would drop significantly if he is currently concussed. So the New York Rangers find themselves in a really tough spot, and I guarantee you the general manager was not happy seeing that take place. And again, it's friendly fire. It's not on purpose. There's not any kind of a suspension you can look at. Be kind of weird, wouldn't it? You're suspended for hurting your own player. Lundqvist was playing an excellent, very, very good game. The Red Wings pull the goalie with 1:20 seconds left, but they're not going to score because it's Detroit. They are the team that scores the least amount of goals per game in the league, and they came through with that again tonight. So the Rangers win 1-0. But the headline out of this, it's kind of Kreider's injury. Lundqvist saves all 33 shots he faced for his 64th career shutout. That's a lot. Bernier saved 30 out of 31 at the other end of the ice. So your 3 stars are Lundqvist, Bernier, and Filppula gets 3rd star. I would have gone with Zibanejad for being the guy with the goal, but maybe that gets counteracted by him knocking Kreider out of the game. I don't know, but Filppula gets 3rd star because why not? Shots were 11 apiece each period for Detroit. However, the Rangers had different numbers of shots per period. 11-6 Detroit in the first, 14-11 Rangers in the second. Both teams had 11 shots in the third. Final shots 33-31 in favor of Detroit. Power plays, the Rangers go 1 for 2. Detroit goes 0 for 2, and a slow game. But again, it's not how exciting the game was or wasn't. It's the fact that Chris Kreider gets hurt that is the big takeaway. And of course, 64 shutouts for Lundqvist. That's nothing to shake your head at. Pretty decent career he's been having, and we'll see what the Rangers do from here because all 3 goaltenders are playing well. It's an odd situation where normally you have 3 goaltenders. It's just not going to work. But for the Rangers, it kind of sort of is right now. Of course, it's Detroit, so we'll see what happens when they're not playing Detroit. Next up, Dallas. This was, I have to admit, this was a game where I thought Dallas might be on the verge of potentially blowing it. New Jersey's playing well. New Jersey's doing a very good job of playing the spoiler. I know when they tested Nashville the other night, people said, see, this is why Nashville isn't very good. The reality is Nashville isn't very good because of the game they had tonight, not because of the game they had against New Jersey. New Jersey's a pretty good test. And tonight, they were a good test for the Dallas Stars as well. The Stars, Corey Perry got close to one early on, around the 4-minute mark. Evenly played first half of the period. The Stars get a power play. On said power play, Kevin Rooney gets a shorthanded goal at 13:09. So Dallas's power play is apparently back to sucking. Didn't get a goal tonight and allowed a shorthanded goal. It's just one game, but it's been fun to say that during the year, and here we are again. So it's 1-0 New Jersey after 1. Second period, the Stars get a power play. During said power play, Heiskanen got a really good chance. Louis Domingue denied him. Domingue had an excellent game tonight. Dickinson would tie it in the last 2 minutes of that first period. He scores from Perry and Johns at 18:42, so that is Johns' first point in a long time. I'm going to say approximately 2 years since Stephen Johns had a point. And so nice to see him back in the lineup and get on the board. Third period, first points. How about Kiviranta? Kiviranta gets his first NHL goal from Alexiak at 5:04 into that third period, and you're thinking, hey, maybe the Dallas Stars are going to win this one. Devils get a power play shortly after that goal. Devils don't score on it. However, Nico Hischier does score from Bratt and Severson at 11:53. Love Jesper Bratt. And that ties it up at 2. We force overtime. In the overtime, Dallas controlled the play. They get the most shots in that overtime, and especially the shot that matters. Joe Pavelski with a nice game winner at 1 minute 39 seconds of overtime. Janmark and Lindell with the assists, and Dallas wins this one 3-2 in New Jersey. They survive the scare. New Jersey picks up a single point, and for Dallas, this is important because look what Colorado did. Remember what St. Louis did earlier today as well. Or no, St. Louis, we'll get to St. Louis. They weren't in the matinee. Spoilers. So, Bishop saves 29 out of 31 in the victory. Domingue saves 28 out of 31 in the loss. Your 3 stars are Pavelski, Hischier, and Domingue. So, New Jersey, they just come up short. Shots were 9 apiece in the first, 11-8 Dallas in the second, 13-8 New Jersey in the third. In the overtime, 3-1 were the shots for the Dallas Stars. Overall, the shots were 31 apiece. Power plays, Dallas goes 0 for 2, New Jersey goes 0 for 3. They did score shorthanded, so they win the special teams battle. Again, with New Jersey, you're just looking for small miracles and just little things you can look at and say, all right, we can build on that next season, because this season is kind of sort of finished for them. All right, moving along. Colorado. I don't understand this, and we've had this debate for weeks. I'm not sure that I understand why Grubauer plays as much as he does, because what Colorado's done at this stage is they could really be making up a lot of ground on St. Louis. They have games in hand on St. Louis, but they're not making up ground on St. Louis with a result like this. So shots were 4-0 Avs at 6 minutes. Pitlick having another very good game. And Niskanen would score from Voracek and Couturier at 13:45. And I thought that was an interesting one, because up until then I thought Colorado would have been the better team. Then there's a 4-minute power play for the Flyers. They don't score on that, but at 19 minutes and 55 seconds, Hayes, power play goal from Van Riemsdyk and Konechny. It's 2-0 Flyers after one period. Second period, Nichushkin would score from Zadorov and Burakovsky at 2:01. That goal may have been changed. I know there was some debate about whether or not Nichushkin was the last one that touched it. I apologize if that was changed. Farabee would score, however, to restore the 2-goal lead from Couturier and Haig at 3:05. So it was a 1-goal game for 2 minutes. However, or for 1 minute and 4 seconds. However, a minute and 11 seconds later, after the Avs get a power play, Rantanen gets a goal from Kadri and Landeskog at 4:16. So power play goal for the Colorado Avalanche, and it's 3-2. The Flyers got a power play. Grubauer denied JVR, and then the Avalanche get a late power play as well. But it is 3-2 after 2. Third period, the Flyers started that period with a power play. Colorado took a penalty at the buzzer. And Myers, who took the late penalty for the Flyers in that second period, drew the penalty, which caused the Flyers to start the third with the power play. So Philippe Myers makes up for taking a penalty by drawing one as well. Farabee would score his second of the game from Couturier at 7:32, and that made it look kind of like Philly might run away with this. And for the Philadelphia Flyers, they've been excellent at home. They really have. If you just looked at their home record, you'd say, hey, the Flyers have got to be one of the top teams in the league. And they should be, if they can get their road record anywhere near what it is at home. Burakovsky would score from Zadorov and Makar at 9 minutes and 9 seconds. So Makar gets on the board. We can continue the rookie debate at some point soon in a video. Power play then for the Flyers. The Avalanche get a power play chance after that. During their power play, Hayes scores a shorthanded goal at 16:33, and that pretty much ends it. Lawton would really put that to rest with a goal in the last minute. Niskanen with the assist, 19 minutes and 15 seconds. That was an empty netter, as Grubauer saved 22 out of 27. So since he didn't allow 6 goals, Lawton's was an empty netter. Lyon, 28 saves on 31 shots at the other end of the ice. Hayes, Farabee, and Couturier are your 3 stars. The shots, 11-7 Colorado in the first, 14-9 Philadelphia in the second, 11-7 Colorado in the third. Shots favored Colorado 31-28. I'm not sure why they don't play Francouz more, but okay. Power plays 1 for 3 for Colorado, 1 for 5 for the Philadelphia Flyers. And yeah, we'll see how long Colorado goes with this. I do wonder if they're going to make a trade for a goaltender at the deadline. Clearly, Bednar doesn't have faith in Francouz to get starters minutes, and Grubauer's numbers just haven't been good enough. So I'm wondering if Colorado does make a move at the deadline, or if Sakic says, you know what, we can do this next year. I'll leave the goaltending as it is. Maybe we'll get things turned around. If we don't, next year could be an excellent year for us as well. I don't know, or maybe he just has faith they'll turn it around. That being said, I do need to change boards. Okie dokie. Winnipeg. This was a pretty good game for the Winnipeg Jets. And a huge game for Connor Hellebuck. And you know, when Winnipeg plays St. Louis, they have to be thinking back to the playoffs. In the playoffs in 2019, the whiteout at home for Winnipeg was basically the blizzard that took them out. They could not win at home. They needed to win at home. They just couldn't get it done. And St. Louis knocked them out. So I look at a game like this and I say, you know what? Hellebuck's going to be motivated, and the Jets should be motivated as well. Shots were 6-3 for the Blues, though, at 5 minutes. The Blues outplayed them early. And they're way ahead in shots halfway through that period, but Hellebuck held the fort down very, very well. Late power play for the Jets. They don't score on that. However, with 1 minute and 16 seconds left, Roslovic scores from Niku, and Sami Niku had an excellent game. Might have the best flow in the NHL as well. That hair might be the best in the NHL. That's a debate for another time. Player with the best hair. We talk about Sorensen, Niku. Basically, if you're a European player, you might have the best hair, unless it's Brock Besser, right? Second period, the Blues get an early power play, and then they got another power play. But those were the only 2 power plays they get in this game. And then Roslovic, late in the second period, he scores from Kulikov and Scheifele at 17:05. And then the one that really hurt, so while they're still trying to figure what went wrong there, with 15 seconds left in the period, and again, it's one of those last minute of the period kind of goals, Kopp scores from Roslovic and Niku. So at 19:45, it is 3-0 for the Jets, and it feels like they should be home and cleared. But it's St. Louis, right? So we still anticipate St. Louis is going to make this interesting. So in the third, my question was, is Hellebuck stealing another? And I point that out because the shots were in favor of the Blues. And then it kind of broke. Shen scores from Schwartz and Thomas at 13:20. O'Reilly then scored from Sanford at 15:50. So over 2.5 minutes, they take a 3-goal deficit and make it 1. And the pressure was pretty darn strong. So they pull the goalie. Here's the thing. Winnipeg's excellent at hitting the empty net. Blake Wheeler gets a goal from Scheifele and Connor at 18:29. St. Louis, in a position where they have to get 2, they pull the goalie again. With that goaltender pulled, Laine scores from Wheeler and Ehlers at 19:39. So your final score is 5-2 for Winnipeg. And the Jets finally get a big win at home over a really good team. The Jets need to improve their home record. They're going to make the playoffs. If they're going to make a run out of this, their home record has to be better. Bennington saved 28 out of 31 in the loss. Hellebuck saved 38 out of 40. Your 3 stars are Niku, Hellebuck, and Roslovic. All Jets. Power plays, both teams went 0 for 2 with the power play. Your shots, 14-12 in the first in favor of St. Louis. Each team had 14 shots in the second, and in the third, St. Louis outshot Winnipeg 12-7. Final shots, 40-33 in favor of the Blues. And it's a big win for Winnipeg because really, in all honesty, the West is so tight. Not that the East isn't either, but for Winnipeg to stay in the running, they really had to get that win tonight. And they got it. So good on them for that. Next up, Vegas. You want to talk about needed victories. Vegas has had those going on for weeks now. And they're managing to keep pace with the Oilers and the Canucks in the Pacific. And I don't know if that ends up being the 3 teams that are fighting over first in the division. And wouldn't that be amazing if Vancouver, Edmonton, and Vegas were fighting over that spot? But right now, they're the 3 best teams in the division. Early on, the Predators get a power play in this one. Predators got another power play 12 minutes in. But if you're a Vegas fan, you're used to the other team having more power plays than you get for the most part. The shots were 7-1, though, for Vegas 13 minutes in, which really spoke to the power play struggles for Nashville, which were really strong tonight. Vegas gets a power play. The shot attempts were 29-6 for Vegas. This was dominant. And Nashville wasn't generating enough, and Vegas wasn't giving them anything either. So the openings just weren't there. Second period, 4th power play for the Predators. What's really interesting about this is they're up to 4 power plays, and they're not generating any shots. Great penalty kill by Vegas, and they actually had the best chance during that power play, shorthanded. So Chandler Stevenson would then score from Stone and Pacioretty at 5:14 to make it 1-0. Shortly thereafter, Vegas gets a power play. Halfway through the period, the shots are 25-7 in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. Yeah, it was a dominant performance by Vegas. So Nashville goes out on the road and has a couple of good games, and then they go home, and they're not very good at home. This is just reality for Nashville right now. Late power play for Vegas. We go into the third, and Vegas is just dominant at that point in the game. Rinne was the only reason this thing was a 1-goal game. A little past the halfway mark, and Raw scores from Reeves and Theodore at 11:16. Predators get a power play. We know how that 5th power play went. It didn't score. And Riley Smith scores from Jonathan Marchessault at 18:58 into an empty net. So Smith continues his hot play. And yeah, that's the 59th career shutout for Marc-Andre Fleury. He only faced 19 shots. He was busy in the 3rd, comparatively speaking, with the 1st and 2nd. But pretty easy shutout for him, comparatively speaking. Rinne saves 36 out of 38. So your 3 stars are Stevenson, Rinne, and Roy. And this is why I don't factor goals against into stats videos. 0 goals against for Fleury, 2 goals against for Rinne, and I can agree that Rinne belonged in the 3 stars, and I can understand why Fleury wasn't in there. So that's why goals against average to me doesn't really tell the story. Shots were 14-2 in the first in favor of Vegas. 14-2. And then 15-6 in the second. In the third, the shots were 11-10 for Nashville. Final shots 39-19 for Vegas. Now, I understand Nashville was losing some games a couple months ago when they were out shooting teams by a lot. And maybe they took it to heart and said, all right, we're going to just try for the perfect shot, and we're not going to take shots from all over the place. Maybe they've overcorrected. Or maybe Vegas' defense has just become really, really solid. Power plays, neither are a factor. Vegas was 0 for 4. Nashville was 0 for 5. And that's a big part of the story. So Vegas comes out with a 3-0 victory in Nashville. Pretty impressive victory. What Vegas needs to be able to do is play these kinds of games at home. They're not overly pretty, but they're effective, and they're a team that can win games like this. Moving along. Boston. This one's tough. So Boston last night, they go in and they beat Winnipeg. Now tonight they play against Minnesota. And for people who may or may not know, my wife's favorite teams are Boston and Minnesota. On some level, I look at a game like tonight and I go, gee, that's got to be rough. And at one point I even went up and I talked to her about it. Because this was an evenly played first half of the first period. And this game was pretty close. However, Krug scores from Lindholm and Krejci at 12:28. Torrey Krug, very good game for him tonight. That's good news. There was a scrum at the Bruins net, but not much else to write about in that first period. And it's 1-0 Boston. Second period, there was a power play for the Bruins, and this is where it gets bad. This is where, for Minnesota fans, the night just turns ugly. Krug scores from Marchand and Pastrnak at 4:39. The Bruins get another power play. Marchand scores from Krug and Pastrnak at 5:55. So that's 2 power play goals in a minute and 16 seconds. Ouch. The Wild got a power play. They didn't score on that. However, Boston gets another one, and Pastrnak scores from Krejci and DeBrusk at 15:29. Boston was 3 for 3 on the power play in that second period. And it just killed any chance that Minnesota had of winning this. Third period, the Wild get a power play. The Bruins then get another. The Bruins did not score on that 4 straight power play, but their power play has been fantastic recently. Zuccarello would score from Soucy and Stahl at 14:31, so that ends the shutout bid of Jaro Halak. Bjork would then score from Nordstrom at 18:02. I didn't think that was a fantastic goal for Dubnyk. And then DeBrusk scored from Kuhlman and Krug 31 seconds later at 18:33. And Dubnyk decided it was the stick's fault, or just wasn't very happy. The reality is he wasn't very happy. This was a terrible way for that game to end, and he broke his stick and had to go to the bench, get another one. I'm not going to put a lot on Dubnyk. I think with DeBrusk, he had time to dust that puck off and put it into the open cage when he got the pass from Kuhlman. Somebody on the blue line, somebody lost their man here. DeBrusk shouldn't be that wide open. But it's a 6th goal. It's a 6-1 game. So this is where you can kind of understand if the defensive intensity for Minnesota was kind of gone at that point. Halak saves 25 out of 26 in the win. Dubnyk saves 28 out of 34 in the loss. Pastrnak, Krug, and Krejci are your 3 stars. Shots 12-11 in the first in favor of Boston, 12-8 Boston in the second, 10-7 Boston in the third. Final shots 34-26 in favor of the Bruins, who really controlled this game. They were 3 for 4 on the power play. Minnesota was 0 for 4. It's a disaster for Minnesota. I don't know how else to put it. If you're a Minnesota Wild fan, you come out of tonight looking at this team and saying, I don't know. Because honestly, they're far enough back from a playoff spot. There are enough teams in between them and the playoffs that I would think Bill Guerin's just straight up selling at the deadline. But again, who knows? Things are so crazy right now, and I think there's so few sellers. Who knows? Next up, Chicago. Remember when these guys were going to be sellers? No. Not now. No. And Arizona had a chance to, if they defeated them in regulation, they could have put some space between themselves and Chicago, and they failed. And knowing the the Winnipeg had already won, this is another disappointing result for the Arizona Coyotes. Shots were 9-3 Coyotes, 7.5 minutes in. They came out very, very strong. But Saad would score from Kane at 12:07. So after one period, the shots had kind of started to even up, and the Hawks are ahead. The shots had totally evened up at the start of the second, and then Saad would score from Kane and Doc at 4:36, and looked like the Hawks might be in control. But Richardson scores from Soderberg and Goligoski at 8:58. So before we're halfway through the game, it's 2-1. And Richardson has started to get some goals while he's in there, and he's not going to get anywhere near the amount of goals he had last year, but it's nice to see him back on the scoreboard. Garland would then score from Holland Demers at 18:20. So about 10 minutes later in game time, the Coyotes have tied the game. So we go into the third. The shots were 4-1 Hawks at around the 3-minute mark. Hall was robbed by Crawford. Corey Crawford with some fantastic saves in that third period and throughout the game. Coyotes get a power play, and then they got another power play. Ranta really needed this bounce-back game. This felt like a very important game, and Tyson Nash, I was actually surprised Tyson Nash didn't go out on the ice and present flowers to Ranta at the end of this, because Tyson Nash gets really into these games. If you want to watch a feed, if you have the opportunity to watch whatever feed of a game, you watch the Arizona feed for Coyotes games. Nash is really, really open about his affectionate feelings towards certain players, and he was very, very much so about Ranta today, to the point where I'm like, okay, Nash, just take it down a little bit. Just take about 20% off. Just okay, he's a great goal. Yes, he's great tonight. Okay, just relax. Breathe in, breathe out. Just slow the heart rate down and just relax. Relax, Tyson. It's okay. It's fine. Great game. All that's fine. We go to overtime. End-to-end action early. Both goaltenders stole the show in the overtime. Kubalik had a breakaway that was stopped by Ranta, which is why I can't believe Ranta wasn't one of the 3 stars. We go to a shootout, and what did the Blackhawks do in a shootout? It had Taves and Kane, and they both score. So the Hawks win 3-2 in a shootout in a game where Arizona had the momentum coming out of the second period and just couldn't win it in regulation. That's what they really needed to do. Crawford saves 40 out of 42. He gets the win. Ranta saves 43 out of 45. Both goalies were fantastic. Saad, Garland, and Crawford are your 3 stars in this one. Shots were 12-11 in favor of Arizona in the first, 16-13 in favor of Chicago in the second, 14-13 Chicago in the third, and then in the overtime, both teams had 4 shots. Final shots 45-42 in favor of the Chicago Blackhawks. Power plays, both teams went over 3 with the power play. So for Chicago, they are just a little bit closer to a playoff spot tonight than they were last night. And for Arizona, they're watching some teams in their division putting points up there that they're not, and they're slipping further back, and they don't have games in hand on anybody either. So we'll see how things go for Arizona. This one looks like it hurts, but we'll see. We're still pretty far out from the start of the playoffs, about 2 months out. So it's a lot closer than you might think. We're about 2 months out from the season being done and the playoffs being here. So anybody who wants to go, there's still lots of time. Kinda. Not really, but kinda. So we'll see what happens with them and whether or not Chicago can keep up this excellent play they've been showing recently. That being said, I need to change boards. I don't know how to start with this one other than to say, holy crap, Alberta. The Battle of Alberta is now the biggest, best feud in hockey. With all apologies to Vegas and San Jose, that one's dead right now. Compared to this, Vegas and San Jose won't see each other the rest of the season anyways, so that one's done. These guys will see each other one more time. And is there anybody in the world that doesn't desperately want to watch that game and desperately want to see these teams against each other in the playoffs? The Oilers were not messing around tonight. There was no way they were losing this game. Kyler Yamamoto scores from Clefbaum at 29 seconds. So he continues his strong start. Cassian from Archibald at 1 minute and 5 seconds. And Flames fans in the crowd were kind of quiet at 2-0. Not the Oilers fans as much. Oilers fans pretty excited. And I don't know that it's 50-50, but by the end of this game, Oilers fans were pretty darn loud. Robinson would score from Johnny Gaudreau and Giordano at 12:42, and Robinson had a goal. He also had a fight. He was just an assist away from a Gordie Howe hat trick. The Oilers got a power play. They would score on that. McDavid scores from Nurse and Draisaitl at 15:33. It's 3-1 Oilers after one. And they were playing very, very well. And for Calgary, it was a pretty frustrating start. So there's an early Flames power play in the second period, a chance to get close. They don't score. And then McDavid would score from Sheahan at 3:18. 4-1. And the Oilers fans seem to be pretty darn happy. The Flames fans and the Flames on the bench, let's be honest. For the Calgary Flames, this was a humiliation. Absolute, complete, and total humiliation. Riddick is out at this point and Talbot is in. So that's 4 goals against, and Talbot goes in. And Talbot was much better, but craziness happened to change that. Tkachuk scores from Mangiapane and Giordano at 4:35. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had a breakaway that was denied. This all felt very important. And then Lindholm would score at 10 minutes and 14 seconds. That makes it 4-3. And at this stage, all right, we're back into it. Here we go. It's a close game. There's some chippiness after the play, and these guys don't like each other, and that's only going to get worse. Nugent-Hopkins scores from Yamamoto and Draisaitl at 11:37. So it was a 1-goal game for about 1 minute and 23 seconds. And then Nugent-Hopkins gets the game back. And then Jones scores from Haas and Chason at 15:58. This goal may very well have been changed to Chason getting it, because it did look on one replay like Chason had tipped it. Another replay, it wasn't conclusive, so they may very well change that to Chason's goal. Don't hate me for putting up that it was Jones's, because at the time they did credit Jones with the goal. And then it's just crazy town. Tkachuk and Bear square off. It's Bear's first fight in the NHL. No, not my cat. Ethan Bear of the Edmonton Oilers. And Talbot and Smith kind of look at each other and go, "You want to go? Sure." So the former Edmonton Oilers goaltender, the former Calgary Flames goaltender, now having switched teams, decide to have a fight. It doesn't get more meta than that. It doesn't. It doesn't get more Battle of Alberta than that. And yet, this is the first time ever that 2 goaltenders have fought during a Battle of Alberta game. Yeah, I was surprised by that too. And then I thought back to goaltenders who've been there in Edmonton. I thought, well, Ranford wasn't really a fighter, and Fear wasn't really a fighter, and that makes sense. Happy Boolin's not going to get into a fight. And sure, Kiprasov wouldn't have skated out to center ice to have a fight, but Smith and Talbot, yeah. And then they did something hilarious. So they send the goalies out of the game, and they decided to send the fighters out of the game too. And then the referees decide, you know what, screw it. So the referees have the chance, have an opportunity to do this. Now, I've seen this happen in other games. You'll see it where, let's say there's 20 seconds left in a period and the glass breaks. So there's a shattered pane of glass. Referee has the right to go, you know what, I got the discretion. We're just going to go for intermission. Those 20 seconds will tack onto the next period. So what they do here is they say, all right, we got to straighten out who's getting a penalty, who's got what problem, who's really got to go. We're just going to send everybody out. You guys go, leave, go cool down. 24 seconds left in the period. We'll tack it onto the third. Well, you guys go. We'll play those 24 seconds later, and we're going to sort all this out. And I agree, because there was just a lot of stuff to sort out. And fans everywhere going nuts. And apparently, in the media area, watching this game, there was just total buzz in between the second and third period, or I guess in between the second and second period, since the 24 seconds carry over. This is a game we're going to be talking about for a long time. And this Battle of Alberta has become the most heated rivalry in the league. Third period, technically 24 seconds of the second period, and the Oilers emerged with a power play out of this. And I didn't go over all the numbers to find out how. Didn't matter, they didn't score on it. And there was still some chippy play. So at every whistle, there's still sort of the, hey, I'm not a big fan of yours. Hey, Don't like you either. Hey, your helmet is stupid. Your shield is stupid. Your stick is dumb. And just a lot of those kinds of things. Just put in a bunch of swearing in place where I said dumb and stupid and not about their helmets. But very, very chippy game. Riddick then stopped Sheahan. But Gagne gets a goal from Clefbaum and Draisaitl at 13-16. And when Gagne got that, all I kept thinking was, when you're adding insult to injury like this, when you're continuing to score like this, that can lead to a brawl too. That can lead to a team saying, all right, we're going to put all the guys out on the ice that know how to fight. You can deal with that later. There was a scrum late. Tkachuk's involved. He ends up getting 10 minutes thrown of the game. So they go, yeah, Matthew Tkachuk, hey, you're gone. 10-minute misconduct, get out of here. Go. And I don't know if there's anything in particular he said. I'm guessing it's just the referee going, okay, we've got to get you out of here. You're out of the game. You're just done. We're not dealing with this in the last 2 minutes of this game. You can go. Haas would score on a penalty shot on that same play. So out of all of this, where there's this big scrum, and it looked like it might be a penalty shot, and then Haas was heading to the box, Haas ends up coming out of the box, and he goes and he scores a penalty shot with 1 minute and 57 seconds left, because of course he does. This was the most bat crap crazy game I've seen all year. And so it's 8-3. And that's your final. Smith, before he got fighty, 15 saves on 18 shots. Koskinen saved 8 out of 8. Riddick, he got pulled, and then he ended up back in the game after Talbot got thrown out. Interestingly enough, that means that each team's emergency goaltender had to suit up. Riddick ended up saving 22 out of 28 when he was in there. Talbot saved 19 out of 21, so Talbot had the better numbers. He also, though, was more likely to drop the gloves. The funny thing is, if Riddick had been in the net at that point, I have no doubt Riddick would have dropped the gloves. He's been pretty punchy all year. He would have no problem going out to center ice and dealing with it. Your 3 stars are Draisaitl, Yamamoto, and... No, Draisaitl was not star 1 and 3. Yeah, no. They didn't have Draisaitl in the 3 stars twice. It was Giordano was the 3rd star. I thought it was nice, too, that there was no fracas that I saw between Giordano and McDavid. Remember the kneeing incident from their last game? Nobody will talk about that now because of everything that happened here. 486 minutes and penalties, I got to think. I know it's not that much, but it's sort of an 80s level game between the score and the penalty minutes. So shots were 14-11, Edmonton in the first, 24-7, Edmonton in the second. Thanks for coming out, Calgary. And 11-8 in the third in favor of the Oilers. Final shots, 49-26. There's a lot for Calgary to try to work on coming out of this game. Power play, 1 for 3 for the Oilers, 0 for 2 for Calgary. And that was one hell of a game. That was amazing. Now, at the same time that's going on, the Ducks are playing the Kings. And you get Tampa and San Jose. And honestly, most of my energy's here because these games were so sedate, comparatively speaking. So quiet, so loving, so caring in relation to this, which was the World War II of hockey. The shots, 3-0 for Ducks at the 3-minute mark in this one. Jones would then score from Steele and Kasha at 5:43. And I thought, isn't that great? 3 guys that I talked about while I was at a meetup in Anaheim. They all get on the board together. I'll take credit, sure. Nice goal by Jones. Nice chip. Not an easy shot that he got that one in with. The shots were 11-5 Ducks at the halfway mark, but the Kings got better as the period went along. Although it was more the shots got better, the actual play was more in favor of the Ducks. The shots don't tell the whole story. Second period, Grant scores from Fowler at 2 minutes and 33 seconds. The Ducks were really in control of this game at that stage, even though the shots, I think at that point, were already favoring LA. The Kings got a power play. Derek Grant got an excellent chance shorthanded. He was denied by Quick, and Grant had a very good game. So Hutton ends up hitting the post during that power play. Then the Ducks get a power play. They don't score on theirs. However, Larson would get a goal from Silverberg and Raquel at 6:52. So Larson, who we've been looking for a little more offense from, maybe that'll start to show up now after the All-Star break. There's a late power play for the Kings, and they do score on it to make it somewhat interesting. Toffoli scores that power play goal from Kopitar and Martinez at 17:21. So it's 3-1 after 2, and the Kings went for it. They did. But Ryan Miller said, no, I am the victor. I am going to win, and you guys can't do anything about it. So the Kings had the early edge in shots and the whole way through that period, to be honest. Great game for Ryan Miller. They pulled the goaltender with 2.5 minutes left. Opportunities were there, and the Ducks had opportunities as well that they just couldn't hit the empty net. And so your final score is 3-1 in favor of Anaheim. As you can see, I ran out of threes. The 3 is here because that game ended first. Ran out of threes, not a big deal. Your final score is 3-1 in favor of the Anaheim Ducks. Miller, 46 saves on 47 shots. Might be his best game of the year. Quick saves 25 out of 28 in a losing cause. Miller's the first star, Grant second star, and Dustin Brown's your third star from the LA Kings. Shots were 14-13 LA in the first, 15-11 LA in the second, and in the third, they had the territorial advantage, 18-4. Yeah. 47-28 overall. The Ducks 0 for 1 on the power play, and the Kings 1 for 2. So the Kings, whose power play has slowly been getting better, that's still the case tonight. So LA, at least the power play is getting better, but they still lose the game, and they are still sitting 30th overall in the National Hockey League out of 31 teams. But if you're a big fan of the idea of them getting a big draft pick this year and what they might be able to do next year with some of the prospects they've got coming up, this might be the perfect result for you. Next up, finally, last but not least, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Well, they really survived what turned out to be a pretty good test, and here's why. They didn't allow shots in the first period. They really didn't. The Bolts started early and fast, and they were a step faster than the Sharks for most of this game. They were testing Aaron Dell. The first power play went to Tampa. McElhinney didn't get his first real chance until about 6 minutes into the game. Teams are exchanging power plays, but the shots were 9-2 in favor of Tampa 12 minutes into that first period. Tampa, complete and total control. Tampa's been on the road a lot. They've done very, very well on the road. They've gone through California now, and they've done very well going through California. And they're going to be rewarded with a much better schedule in their favor after all these road games are done. The Bolts get a third power play before the end of the first. They don't score on their power plays, and they don't get much more in the way of power plays for the rest of the game. But it's scoreless after one because of Aaron Dell. Second period, and yeah, it's the only reason this thing's tied is Aaron Dell. But the Sharks get an early power play, and they do generate a ton more shots in the second period than they did in the first. A lot more. Stamkos, however, would score the first goal from Shattenkirk and Sergachev at 4 minutes and 4 seconds. So even though this was a great period for the Sharks in comparison with the first, they allow the only goal of that second period, and it's 1-0 Tampa. And Tampa with a lead is big, but also keep in mind McElhinney's in net, and for whatever reason, they don't give him goal support, mostly. So third period, the Bolts were up 10-6 in shots 15 minutes into this, and Dell and McElhinney remain the story of the game. Kucherov would break through. He would get a goal from Stamkos and point at 17:57. So the Sharks have no choice but to pull the goaltender. They do that with 1 minute and 45 seconds left, which allows Cirelli to steal the puck, give it to Andre Palat. Palat would put it into the empty net at 19:43, and your final score is 3-0 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, who keep pace with the Boston Bruins and maintain a separation between themselves and third place in the division. McElhinney, that's his 11th career shutout, and for people keeping track, that was the third shutout of the night. Shutouts are becoming a little more prevalent as we get into February. That's normal. Defenses just get better. 30 saves for McElhinney in the shutout, so that's his first shutout as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Aaron Dell, 32 saves on 34 shots. He was fantastic. McElhinney, Dell, and Stamkos are your 3 stars tonight. Shots 13-2 Tampa Bay in the first. I told you they didn't allow shots. 18-8 San Jose in the second, so San Jose turned it around. And in the third, Tampa, locking it down. They outshot San Jose 14-10. Final shots 35-30 in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have to feel a little bit fortunate that after outshooting a team 13-2 and it being scoreless, that they didn't lose the game. Because how many times do we see that, right? Team gets a big push in the first period, all kinds of shots, can't put the puck in the net, and then in the second and third, the other team wakes up, and suddenly you're down. Power plays, 0 for 4 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, 0 for 3 for the San Jose Sharks. Great games overall. So if you want to know the standings, here you go. Boston, 74 points. They're 5 ahead of Tampa. Tampa is 6 points ahead of Toronto, who are now third place in their division. The Capitals, 75 points, are 6 points clear of the Penguins. And the Penguins are 5 points clear of the Islanders, who are third. But the Blue Jackets and the Flyers are only 1 point behind the Islanders with 63 points each. Florida and Carolina both have 61 points. They're both below the playoff line. Montreal is 8 points out with 55. The Rangers are 9 points out with 54. The Sabres are 10 points out with 53. The Senators, 46 points. Devils, 45. And Detroit has a nice logo. In the West, the Blues, 70 points, still lead the West. The Avalanche, 62 points. Dallas, 62 points. And Vancouver leads their division with 64. The Oilers now have 62 to be second in that division. Vegas has 61. Now the Calgary Flames dropped to that number 1 wild card, which means that the playoffs started today. They'd play Vancouver. They have 60 points. The Coyotes, 59 points, are sitting 3 ahead of Chicago, who have not played as many games as Arizona. The Jets, 56 points, 3 points out. The Nashville Predators, 4 points out with 55. The Wild, 52 points. They're 7 out. And San Jose is 11 back. The Ducks are 12 back. And LA is 16 points back of the playoffs in the West. You're all caught up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget, we've got the power rankings and a preview tonight. But the preview's short. It's only 3 games. And they're all done before the start of the Super Bowl tomorrow. So, there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And may every game end up as crazy as this one for the rest of the season. Come on, that would be fun. I want the craziness. That was a great game. Honestly, the score doesn't tell you just how much fun that game was to watch. Unless you're a Flames fan, in which case it probably wasn't as much fun to watch. Or was it? Let me know your thoughts on that as well. Thanks again for all your support. I will talk to you very soon.